Hello there. I'm History of the Flash, but you could call me JD.
And ahoy and comic book hunter, also known as just Hunter.
And this is a Hero Story, episode 112. Welcome.
Ahoy.
A Hero Story is a podcast where we talk all things comics. That includes comic book movies, comic book animation, comic book video games, comic books themselves. You name it, we probably talk about it. Now, right before we record every episode, we usually have to go over, basic stuff of what we're going to talk about and, all that good stuff. Part of that is listening back to the beginning of the past podcast to know who started the last week. Now, I couldn't remember who started, so I went back to episode 111, and as Hunter and I were getting ready, I play it, and it starts with Hunter clearing his throat and saying 3, 2, 1, which
Like twice.
was not was not supposed to be on the podcast. So that's how we start every episode, but it usually gets edited out. So we had a big oof, but no one told us about it. This is crazy. This podcast is a very community based where I feel like I usually get the usual suspects coming back to me and saying like, oh, you actually meant this on the podcast. I'm like, oh yeah, I did actually mean that. Or it's I get like the nice
Yeah.
corrections. No one said anything about this. I was shocked beyond belief that no one said it.
I was just checking the Hero Story Instagram. We got nothing. You got nothing. I got nothing. But
This is bizarre. Harper, you're slipping, man. What's going on?
yeah.
Anyway, Hero
Welcome
Story,
to a Hero Story.
episode 112. A little bit of awkwardness to begin the episode, but hey, that's what a good
Yeah.
episode starts with. Listen, there's a lot of news this week. There's two pretty big anniversary comics that came out this week with Batman 100 and The Amazing Spider-Man 49, aka The Amazing Spider-Man 850. So we're going to talk about both of those in pretty decent detail. But first, we're going to start with the news of the week. And wow, I'm about to steal the news from Hunter.
Yeah, you are. Go for it.
I'll let you run the comics this week, and I'll run the news.
Oh,
How about
okay.
that?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, starting in live action. Jamie Foxx, the actor Electro, will not be blue in Spider-Man. This is why I don't run the news. He will not be blue in Spider-Man 3. If you remember correctly from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, his Electro had a blue to him, and he will not have that, which makes us think that he is not the same Electro, which I think is ultimately for the better anyway.
Well,
He
you think?
well.
I still think it's the same Electro. I just think maybe he'll have something like a little change. People change their
Oh.
suits in movies, but I think it's still the same guy. But go on with your theories.
Anyway, I think it's similar to how J.K. Simmons plays J. Jonah Jameson in the new Spider-Man movies, and he played it in the old ones. It's not the same character, but he's playing the same person. So I think that's what the Jamie Foxx thing is ultimately going to come down to, but who knows? Anyway, moving on to... Oh, no, let's stay with all the Spider-Man stuff, because there was a ton of Spider-Man
Yeah,
news
stick with
this week.
Spider-Man. Speaking of Jamie Foxx real quick, do you think he will get the green and yellow suit in this case?
I really hope so, but if anything, I think it'll be kind of like the modern version of it, kind of like what they did with Mysterio and kind of like what they did with Vulture. But yeah, I think they would do that.
I hope so at least. And just, he doesn't have to be blue for this, although he was blue in the Ultimate Comics. So him being blue in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't like, that's not Electro. It's still a little comic book origin there. I could be as I'm saying this, I'm like, wait, was he blue? So anyways, continue with the
I've
news.
I've never read Ultimate Spider-Man, so I can't fact check you there. But
And I
Tyler,
have.
as the big Ultimate Spider-Man fan, is about to tear you a new.
Oh no, yeah, he is blue. Yeah, sorry, I did read Ultimate Spider-Man, but it's also like one of the first superhero books I got into. I think the last time I read it was like maybe 8 or 9 years ago. So it's been a while.
You're due for a reread, it seems.
I would love to reread it actually. But yeah, anyways, sticking with the Spider-Man news.
Yeah. So Kirsten Dunst, who played Mary Jane in the original Spider-Man trilogy, and Dane DeHaan, he who played
Something like that.
Norman. I mean, not Norman. Harry Osborn in the Amazing Spider-Man series are both rumored to be joining the cast of Spider-Man 3. So it appears that Spider-Man 3 may be going for some multiverse stuff, which segues us into the next thing. Benedict Cumberbatch, Doctor Strange himself, is going to be in Spider-Man 3, which opens the door to multiverse. So does Benedict being in Spider-Man 3 confirm the news about Kirsten and Dane?
It seems like
Possibly.
he is gonna have a major role, unlike Thor Ragnarok, which everyone seems to forget Doctor Strange was in for like 3 minutes at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so now it seems like he's actually gonna have a major role in this, My problem is when the news was reported officially, they said he is replacing Robert Downey Jr. as a mentor to Spider-Man. And they also mentioned or
Uh,
replacing him as from Nick Fury as a mentor and Far From Home. Spider-Man doesn't need a mentor. He really doesn't. His mentor is Uncle Ben.
Mr. Magic Man, please.
Yeah, we don't need that.
Listen, it's gonna be a little tough when he goes to give him like a science 5 or a magic 5. Oh God,
I
please don't do this.
understand you have a younger Peter here, but at this point, with the third movie and like his sixth appearance, fifth appearance, sixth appearance in the MCU, he should be out of high school by now, right? Or just graduating around that age.
Probably right at the end of high school.
Yeah, I mean that's what Peter was in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and he didn't have a mentor. So why does Tom Holland's Peter need a mentor? He should very much like strive to be his own thing, get out of the Avengers shadows, like Kevin said originally after Far From Home that he's going to be his own character now. But now it seems he's going to have a mentor. I don't get me wrong, I love Doctor Strange. He's one of my favorite parts of the MCU in general. When this news first broke, I was very happy. I just don't like the wording calling him a mentor. He should be there for the plot, for having the story continue and open the multiverse, assuming that's what's going to happen here, not training Spider-Man. That seems weird.
Yeah, yeah, and yeah, what kind of surprised me about this news about Kirsten Dunst, because she kind of badmouthed the new Spider-Man trilogy
Did
a
she?
while back. Yeah, she said, I remember she was on some radio show and she's like, "Oh, like those movies are terrible. Like they'll never be able to do what we did," or something like that, something along those lines. So,
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, I guess paycheck's a paycheck, and you do what you do. But yeah, I thought that was kind of surprising. Does
Well, in
this
the end,
mean?
it's a rumor. So,
Listen, if she's gonna be in it, then Toby's got to
gotta
be
be.
there, right? You wouldn't
Yeah,
just
I
have
mean,
Mary Jane unless Toby's dead. Oh my God,
I mean,
imagine.
Raimi's directing Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, which is all about the multiverse, and Stranger's in this movie. Raimi and Toby are kind of close, I imagine. So this is a good way for him to get in, which means Andrew should be coming in too, I imagine, especially since Harry Osborn's coming in.
Listen,
So,
after having my childhood dreams with Smallville crushed when he had an appearance in Crisis, I do not want Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man touched unless Sam Raimi is handling it, because I truly don't trust other writers to touch it, because the Smallville creators would have never let that happen to Clark's Superman. Oh God, I still hate it so much. That has no effect on me since I've given up my powers. Ah,
I still
but
have
yeah,
hope.
I listen. If Sam's not involved, don't bring back Toby. That's my feeling on this. Um. Anyway, somebody else wants in on Spider-Man 3, which is the Daredevil Kingpin actor Vincent D'Onofrio.
Something like that. He just
Something
basically
D
fandom,
apostrophe something.
yeah, fandom just tweeted out like with Doctor Strange being confirmed and all these other characters being rumored for Spider-Man 3, who else do you want to see? And he replied being like, "When I was a boy," which is the Kingpin line in Daredevil. And a lot of people at first were just like, "Oh, this is confirming he's in." It's not. He's just having
Well,
fun.
and if you remember correctly, remember when Matt Reeves was doing all the Batman announcements, and then he replied like he replied something to Matt Reeves, and people were like, "Oh my God, he's gonna play a character," and then like a day later, he's like, "Oh, I wasn't actually. I just wanted to have fun with Matt Reeves." So
Oh yeah, yeah, because they were
him
asking who
tweeting,
should play a certain character, and yeah.
yeah, like him tweeting means absolutely nothing. So,
Mhm.
and unfortunately, I just don't think any of the Daredevil characters are gonna return.
I have so much
Tragic.
hope for. Okay, if Andrew Garfield could possibly return, Charlie Cox can return as Daredevil. I love
I
Andrew. God, if he's in this movie and his story
Oh,
continues,
I feel like if Andrew and Andrew's Spider-Man and Charlie's Daredevil interacted, that would be like your dream
oh
scene.
my god, I didn't even think of that. That's like the perfect combination right there. At first, I thought like if Andrew was in the MCU instead of Tom, the characters I want to react with most would be Bruce Banner. I would love him to have a scene like as Peter Parker and Bruce Banner together. Just because
Mhm.
if you watch the Amazing Spider-Man 1, which I actually rewatched 2 days ago, he's so passionate about science. Like that's what he cares about before he gets bitten. All he wants to do is just study and learn and adapt and invent. that's his character. And so him talking to a character like Bruce Banner or Tony Stark will be so good. But when he puts the suit on, talking to Daredevil, oh my god. So
Yeah.
can you imagine if in this movie the multiverse happens, Toby appears, hey, I'm Toby Maguire. I mean, I'm Peter Parker. I'm Andrew Garfield.
I don't think he'd say, "Hey, Toby, hey, I'm Toby
Yeah,
Maguire."
hey,
I think he'd say, "Get out of the way. There's cars here."
something like that. I guarantee there'll be a scene where they all point at each other too, just a little
Yeah.
reference to the meme. But then maybe afterwards they team up, they talk, they fight, they win, they go back to their own worlds. Then we get an announcement for the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 4 to wrap up their stories. That would be interesting.
I I don't think it would happen,
Just
but
like the Joker movie. Yeah, I know.
very. We're comparing apples and oranges here.
Yeah.
Listen. You know, I'm a big advocate for
Toby.
Toby Spider-Man, and
Mhm.
I want more of that. And the idea of Craven's Last Hunt being Spider-Man 4 is chef's kiss. But I man, I just don't see it happening. I don't know. I mean, listen, we grow closer and closer to live action Spider-Verse, so
I
maybe,
mean, we
but
could pretty much get live action Spider-Verse at this point. It's gonna be a little weird, I think, at first, especially considering that Kirsten Dunst, who plays Mary Jane, will be coming to like. What if it's just her and Toby's not in it? And what if it's just Harry Osborn?
that's what I'm saying. What if they say like Toby Spider-Man died and she like they
Oh, I
have
wouldn't. I would hate that.
I'm saying what if they ever play the role of like Mary Jane as the widow, like my Spider-Man passed on, like kind of
I
like
don't.
how in Into the Spider-Verse, when the Chris Pine Spider-Man dies and
Yeah,
his Mary Jane is kind of just like there.
I don't
What
think.
if that?
I don't think that's very good writing for fans' sake. Be like, oh, hey, it's her from the movies I grew up with. And guess what? My hero from the movies I grew up with is dead off
Is
screen. We
dead.
see nothing. So I think that'd be pretty disappointing. I think it'd be better if just she appeared and she could just say that Toby Spider-Man and us all fighting crime on his Earth. He couldn't come or he wasn't able to come or it was an accident. Mary Jane wasn't supposed to be here. Just it'd be weird seeing like I'm Mary Jane. I'm in this new timeline and my probably husband at this time, not boyfriend anymore, is like 17 years old. Like isn't that weird to think about?
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's hope Andrew and Toby appear too. But we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll
Spider-Man
see.
3 begins filming this month, October.
Well, we'll see about that because everything's been pushed back, which leads us to the next news. Boom, that's what we call a transition. Uh, a ton of DC films have been pushed back,
Mm-hmm.
way back.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start with the first one. Shazam 2, The Electric Boogaloo, has been moved back to June 2nd, 2023, which is kind of crazy. One of the problems that I said, when we reviewed Shazam on the podcast was
Yeah,
that,
before COVID entirely.
yeah, I think it was like literally when we reviewed Shazam, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe the weeks after, I forget. But
Yeah, I think it
at
was.
some
I
point
know
I
what you were
talked
going to
about
say.
this
Yeah.
where you have kid actors who are growing up. I mean, I don't know if you've seen Jack. I mean, yeah, you actually mentioned that during Fandom. Jack Crazer, or whatever his name is, the one who
Oh,
plays.
plays Freddy.
Yeah, he has like a mustache now.
Yeah, it's really weird.
So, and the one who plays Mary Marvel, I forget her name, but she's like 23. They're all getting older. So, as the movie gets pushed back, and listen, there's nothing you can do. It's COVID, but
Mm-hmm.
as the movie gets pushed back, I wonder how the story changes as the kids look so much older. I mean, I can only imagine what Darla, who was like a little girl
She's
in
like
Shazam
six,
1, what is she going
seven.
to look like in Shazam 2 when she's like 10 or 12?
She was also in DC Fandom, but she looked about the same. So not much has changed for her as of now. But with 2023, that means they could even start filming in 2022, and nothing would be delayed if they want to keep the 2023 spot. I feel like if anything, Shazam 2 is a movie that you'd want to like prioritize filming and getting out just because they're kid
Yeah.
actors. And Billy
And
Batson in the comics
by the
doesn't
way, that
really age.
yeah, and they want to do a third one when it comes to the Shazam franchise because David Sandberg talked about how the first one is Savannah, the second one is Mr. Mind, and the third one they face Black Adam. So if you want to do a third one, when's the third one going to come out? 2025, 2026?
Yeah, exactly. It's they really got to prioritize that because it's okay if you have an older Billy. I mean, he's like 15 in the movie or something, but in the comics he was originally 10 when he got his powers, and right now in the comics he's 16. So you're aging above the comics here, which is fine. It's just you're gonna have to do some new things here with the older characters. Like, hey, I'm an adult, and when I say Shazam, I turn into an adult. So you're gonna have to change some things up a little bit here, but I still have hope. It just should be prioritized. Other movies?
Uh, Flash movie pushed back to 11/4/2022. Um, Flash movie, whatever. I don't care anymore. I don't. Um, the Batman pushed back to March 4th, 2022. That's
Oof.
quite far away.
Such a
Uh,
good pick. Like it looked like such a good Halloween movie coming out next October, but now it's March, which isn't that big of a delay. I was afraid it was going to delay a year or more. So March
well,
isn't that bad.
to be fair, this is just as of now. It could go further.
Yeah.
And then speaking of further, Black Adam, undated. It literally just lost its release date, and now we don't know when it'll come out. So
That is the worst one out of them
tough
all.
things going on for Warner Brothers DC right now.
Because with that, Black Adam no release date, now it feels like it's a lot less motivating to focus on as like the production company. Like, oh, we gotta focus on Flash. Do we have to focus on Black Adam? Ah, it's okay. We don't have to announce the release date yet, kind of thing. Dwayne
Yeah.
Johnson said that he was so passionate about this role and he was so excited to get into the suit and everything this year. And then immediately he teased on Instagram that he was on his way to film Black Adam, but now he's filming a Netflix movie instead. And now that Black Adam has no release date, I feel like, oh, there's no rush for Black Adam. I'll film another comedy. I'll film another Jumanji. I'll film another action movie. And Black Adam's going to get pushed back more and more and more and more. Eventually, it's going to be a 20-year delay because this movie was originally coming out in 2007. So, well, the Shazam movie was, but it was supposed to star Black Adam playing, or The Rock as Black Adam. So, the fact that it has no release date really bothers me.
Yeah, it's tough.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of that Flash movie, Gal Gadot is rumored to be appearing in the Flash movie now. We know Wonder Woman has a role in Flashpoint. Clearly, Flashpoint is not going to be the same at all. But
No,
yeah, maybe she'll be there with Ben Affleck's Batman. Who knows?
I'll have to wait and
Um,
see. Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if she'll actually be in it, but apparently she's being pursued for it.
I'd be
Uh,
okay with it. But yeah,
yeah, I I'm very indifferent. It's a Flash movie. I don't care.
yeah,
The Invincible trailer, which I actually still haven't seen, but our very own comic book Hunter is going to talk about because Hunter, go.
briefly, kind of. Invincible is a comic book made by Robert Kirkman, who created Walking Dead. I believe it's from Image Comics. I could be very wrong. Oh no, I could be wrong. Let's just say it's an indie company that isn't Marvel DC. Yes, Image Comics. Sorry, my bad. Uh, it's kind of considered like the best comic ever made. A lot of people say that. A lot of people also say it's a little overrated. But as far as I could tell, nothing but good things. Even the people that say it's overrated still say it's a solid read. So I've never read it personally. I just hurt so many listeners by saying that. But fear not, because I ordered the compendium online, and it's supposed to arrive tomorrow, which is issues 1 to 49 all in one big trade. It's going to be thick. I'm going to put it on my shelf. I'll probably post it on my story if you're listening on Friday, assuming it arrives Friday. If not, it'll be on Saturday. It'll be on my story how big it is. But yeah, this trailer alone kind of convinced me, like, wow, this looks good. I am going to start reading this finally. This has pushed me to read it. So yeah, it's basically about a superhero, and that's all I want to say because I don't want to say anything else and like be like, oh, that's not true. You haven't read it. You can't just say that because that doesn't actually happen. But yeah, the trailer itself looks very much like Young Justice as style, like the art style in a way. It's very much like the artist on there, Ryan Otley, who is currently doing the art for The Amazing Spider-Man. But in general, the art style for the show looks a bit like Ryan Otley, a bit like Young Justice, but it is going to be dark. There is gore, there is blood, all shown in the trailer. So, and it's animated. I'm ready for it. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's my
still haven't
speech.
seen the trailer. My podcast prep is not there.
Yeah,
Um, anyway, anyway, maybe the compendium does sound interesting, even though I typically just stick to trades. But
I mean, it's still
in
technically like a trade.
But I'm saying size wise for my shelf. But
Yeah.
yeah, Invincible is a thing that I've considered getting into before. My problem is I just feel like I always have so much to read. Like everyone's to read list. Like if you read comics, your to read list is just like always through the roof. So
Yeah. Well, what is your to read list right now? Are you done Impulse or?
yeah, I finished Impulse. I'm actually we talked about this. I've just been so busy with like school and stuff that I haven't been able to get around to it yet. But I'm considering doing a full Daredevil reread in the sense of Hunter,
No,
where
that's
I
what I'm
start with
doing.
Miller and where I start with Miller and I work my way back to the front.
Okay.
Um, but as for like comic series that need to be read, I need to get into Gideon Falls, which I have the trade of, but have not been able to get around to,
Okay.
which is the Jeff Lemire Image Comics book.
Hmm.
Invincible is one that I need to read. A ton of Marvel titles that have been recommended to me, like a ton of X titles. I've been recommended Bendis's X-Men, and I've also been recommended Joss Whedon's X-Men for so long, and I I keep saying like, all right, I'm gonna get into it, and I haven't gotten into it. So stuff I have to get into. I don't know. I just feel like I'm sure you feel the same way where so many comics get recommended to you. It's like holy shit! Like how am I gonna keep up with all
Oh
these?
yeah, I have a whole list and everything, but I'm making progress
Like you've been getting into the trades. I'm very proud to see it.
big
When
time.
in the chat the other day when you were talking about like reading trades, I was so proud. I was like, Hunter from a year ago wouldn't even recognize this Hunter.
Yeah, I want to say 2019. 2018 Hunter would be like trade. Single
Yeah,
issues is where
exactly.
it's at, man. And it's true because young Hunter would only read single issues. And if he wanted to read a run from a long time ago, he had to get all the single issues from that run. And it sucked and it was annoying. And I never got to read old stuff because issue 28 of that Daredevil run didn't exist anymore. So, or if it did exist, it was like $400. So I'm like, well, I guess I'm not reading that run. And then I got a bookshelf, and that's so motivating to fill that bookshelf. And it costs a lot of money. Like this Invincible,
As
not trade, like
as someone who has a bookshelf, the
yeah,
bookshelf is great.
the Invincible book I just bought, $70. It's 49 issues, which is cool, over 1,020 pages, but $70. Oh well, worth it. And even then,
You
like,
you had a full send based on one trailer. That's pretty crazy.
yeah, well, yeah. It's also people recommending all the time in my DMs. Be like, hey, have you read
Yeah.
Invincible yet? And I'll be like, haha, I want to, but no. I have people messaging me constantly. You got to read Immortal Hulk. You got to read Venom. You got to read Donny Cates Thor, which I started. You got to read Jason Aaron's Thor, which I finished. You got to read this. You got to read that. So I have a lot of recommendations, but at the same time, I'm focusing on things that I recommend to myself. Like I just hear good things and I want to read them myself. So I'm reading Matt Fraction's Hawkeye right now. And I didn't get recommended that as far as I know. I just thought it looked good. So I picked up all 4 volumes. Daredevil. I'm reading every Daredevil book from Stan Lee on. That was kind of just my own thing that I wanted to do. And I'm almost, I guess I'm on Brubaker right now. So I'm getting there. I'm slowly but surely. But yeah, it's been fun. I've liked trades a lot. Highly recommend for those who just want to read comic books and want to read good ones too. Jason Aaron's Thor, fantastic. Has some major problems sometimes, but besides that, great run. I almost said 10 out of 10, but it's definitely not. Great moments. So yeah, trades are good. Speech ended.
Yeah. Listen, I like that. Anyway, in comic news, real quick. Well, actually, I think you have to take over here because Scott Snyder. You watched the interview.
Yeah, so there was an interview with Scott Snyder that was 50 minutes long. It wasn't by Comic Story, but Comic Story was kind of the one handling it. I forget who it was by, but it's on YouTube if you guys want to watch it. Basically, I'm going to kind of summarize some major things that Scott Snyder said. Slight spoilers for death metal. These are things that Scott Snyder said, and then right after he said it, he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I was supposed to say that." Oh well, and then he went on to talk more brief about it. So slight spoilers ahead. So if you don't want slight spoilers for death metal, maybe check the timestamps in the description, which should be up by now, and click away. For death metal, issue 5, no, issue 6. Sorry, because we're on issue 3 right now. So issue 6, the original Dark Knights from just Dark Knights Metal will return. Will they be good? Will they be bad? We don't know. I'm calling it. They're going to be good guys because comics.
That's
The
comics.
one issue before that, issue 5, will have Wonder Woman looking at something that shows the DC timeline, and she's going to be confused over it because events are happening at the same time. She's going to see things like City of Bane and Doomsday Clock and like Heroes in Crisis all happening at once. And she's going to be like, wait, this doesn't make sense. And she's going to go on a little quest to try to fix this. So we'll have to wait and see where that happens. Thank God, by the way, because DC's timeline is a mess right at the moment. So hopefully it'll be fixed. And Scott Snyder said his hope for the end of Death Metal and going on with DC forward, starting with like January 2021, I think, is that the timeline will make sense, if anything. So that's good to know. Before COVID hit, Death Metal was planned to connect into every single DC ongoing, including the Bendis titles. And it was going to have 60 tie-ins. So this is due to it all following one character too, Aquaman. Aquaman was going to be in every single tie-in, and it was going to be a quest that he's going on solo. So sometimes Death Metal will tie into Superman. Superman will be in that, but Aquaman would be too. Sometimes it would be the Flash. Flash would be in that, but it would also be Aquaman, which is kind of a cool idea. But 60 issues, and they're all side stories for a 7-issue event? Why?
COVID right now.
Maybe I don't want to be the bad guy anymore.
Listen, maybe COVID isn't the bad guy if that saved us from a 60-issue tie-in. I mean, can you imagine? And this is, remember who was it? Was it Williamson talking about it? About like all these tie-ins. Someone was talking about like all these tie-ins. That would be terrible. 60? That's horrible.
I think it was Williamson. And he was like involved with some of these tie-ins too.
Yeah.
He's running the Justice League tie-ins. It was shortened big time because when COVID happened, DC lost a bit of money and they're like, okay, we can't really supply all of these tie-ins. So you can do a little bit, but you can't do every single book, which is why books like Flash didn't tie in, or Aquaman itself. Aquaman is supposed to be the star of these tie-ins, but his book alone will not tie into Death Metal. So thank God. Within these tie-ins, some characters from the one-shots that we got from Death Metal were supposed to have way bigger roles, including the Batmobile, who's also alive. He was supposed to be like a transformer from a transformer-like planet, and there was supposed to be a whole plot with that. The baby Batman, which appeared in the episode where I don't think you were in it, it was just Tyler Harper.
It was you. It was you guys.
Like,
listen to that.
This is the worst comic I've ever read in my life. Well, apparently it's supposed to continue.
We all know Harper would have loved Baby Batman's miniseries.
Yeah, for those who don't know, it's basically an alternate dimension where Batman turns himself into a baby, and that's it. There is no story. It's just he turns himself into a baby. Does he turn back? No. The issue ends. That was supposed to apparently continue, but it never is now. And then the other major character was Aquaman, like I was saying. So a few weird Death Metal things, but Scott Snyder also said Death Metal seems like his kind of grand finale in a way where this might be his last event, but he still has 2 more comics that he wants to do with DC and is confirmed to be doing with DC, unannounced yet, before he might just stop working for DC and work on his own company with his own indie books, which is cool. I mean, his indie books have been very successful so far. He has an Indiegogo up for one.
I was going to say his Nocturna, I think it's called, has like blown expectations out of the water. So he has that fan base now, like him, guys like him, Donnie Cates. They have that fan base now that will pretty much just buy whatever they're going to write. So why not go to your own company where you could make, more money and you have more story freedom? Like it makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah. With this DC stuff, though, he did mention that he's working on something with Francis Manapul. He didn't say what it was, but then a few minutes later, he said that one of the books is going to be a Nightwing comic. He didn't say he's like becoming the writer of Nightwing. He just said a Nightwing comic. So I'm guessing Black Label, like 3-issue Nightwing story.
What was that Nightwing comic that came out fairly early in Rebirth? New Order, I think. That was like an Elseworld Nightwing comic.
It was, yeah.
He was gonna do something like that.
Yeah, something like that. That was the one where Nightwing was like evil. It was like Batman Red. It was the Batman Red Sun universe, wasn't it? Like Superman Red Sun, but Nightwing. I could be very wrong. I didn't read it.
Yeah, I don't think I read it, but I don't think it was Red Sun.
Oh, okay.
I think it was like it reminded me of like Future's End type, like Future, and
okay.
I just remember Wally West having a black suit.
Of course, that's what you remember, the Flash character.
Of course it is.
Yeah. But yeah, he's writing a Nightwing book, probably 3-issue Black Label. like New Order, but Francis Manopoulos would be on art. I'd be okay with that. And yeah,
It'll at least be pretty.
yeah, that's about it for what Scott Snyder said. Besides that, he just talked about.
I was gonna ask, since he said he has 2 story ideas, what are the odds you think we get a Dark Knight's Metal 3 to be the the trio, the grand finale next year? You think there's gonna be a Dark Knight's 3?
Oh, that make Trinity. Yeah, that makes sense actually. Unfortunately, Batman laughs.
I said in our group chat that the tagline for the book is going to be like Dark Knight's Metal 3. The Batman who laughs isn't laughing anymore.
No. Oh, that's probably. Oh, that makes sense too. He said the minor thing, which is Nightwing, but he's got to go out with a bang, I guess.
Instead of 60 tie-ins, it'll have 120 tie-ins.
Yeah, I guess that's very much possible. And I will spend my money on it.
Oh man!
For some reason, I mean, he did say that the Batman Who Laughs miniseries that we read and reviewed on the podcast like 2 years ago. Remember that? It was 6 issues, maybe 7.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yeah, he said that was supposed to be longer. That was supposed to be an ongoing originally, and they're like, no, let's make it shorter. So I think it was supposed to be like 12 issues or something like that. But they're like, no, let's make it shorter. And the reason why they decided to make it shorter was because Scott Snyder didn't want to overuse him, he said, which I kind of feel like he already is overusing him. But he's like, I wanted to like use him for a little bit and put him away for a bit as well. And also because he didn't want to be known as the edgy guy at DC, just showing this edgy Batman killing people in edgy ways.
Is he not self-aware of everything that the Batman Who Laughs is?
And then right when he said that comic story and was like, oh, but you write such a good Batman Who Laughs. It's like, okay, who else has written? Joshua Williamson, I guess, in Batman Superman. But that's about it. So, I mean, for those who love Batman Who Laughs, I'm sorry. You could have gotten more of him. For those who dislike Batman Who Laughs, we lived.
Victory Royale.
Yeah. But yeah, that's about all he kind of said in the interview. There's a few more things that I either can't remember at the moment, or they're just talk about like how he got with DC and like his ideas for the future and how he came up with certain characters and stuff like that. So yeah, last bit of comic news. Daredevil, the ongoing that we all love, written by Chip Zdarsky, is in fact going to tie into King in Black, which is the upcoming Venom arc, or I guess Venom event starting in December at Marvel. We didn't think he was going to tie in when we first broke this news on the show, just because Daredevil is a very grounded story and he didn't tie into War of the Realms, which is the last event. But it seems like he is tying into King in Black. So, or yippee, depends how good the event is. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
That's it for the news.
Yeah, that's it. So let's jump on to the comics.
33 minutes.
33 minutes. Batman 100. Now, listen, we could break this down panel by panel, but honestly, I just want to have like a discussion about it.
Okay.
I have this feeling with Joker War where it's like, I kept expecting it to just kind of take off, and oddly enough, it gave me some of the things that I wanted, but I felt absolutely nothing reading Batman 100. I mean, I read it and I was kind of just like, oh, okay, that happened. Like, I didn't get that warm feeling inside that I love from comics. I got nothing. I was just like, well, that was a comic that happened. That was an event that happened. We get things that I like. Barbara becoming Oracle again, Nightwing being Nightwing again. But I feel nothing inside. I don't know. Is it just me, or is this like it felt like a nothing burger of an event or a nothing burger of a comic? I don't know.
It is some good things, like you said, Barbara back and both Steph and Cass getting the bat symbol on their suits. Nightwing returning, like you just said. The art is fantastic too. Jorge Jimenez draws such a
top
good
notch,
writing.
and I'm sad that he's going to be done on Batman.
He is not.
Oh, yeah. I thought 100 was his last issue.
I thought so too. Oh, yes, that could have been the news of the week. He announced this week that Jorge Jimenez will be continuing his art on Batman for all of 2021.
Oh, beautiful.
So after 2021, I think he says he might be trying to get to on a different book, depending on who's writing what. But for all of 2021, he signed a contract saying that he will be on Batman. for future
That's
arc.
awesome.
Not every arc,
Okay.
because the man needs a break. But yeah,
Yeah.
but he is still going to be on arc. And he trusts such a good Nightwing. Let's hope Nightwing's still involved. But that being said, I agree with you. When I got to the end of this, there's little like side stories afterwards, like epilogues and things like that, making the issue a bit thicker. When I got to those side stories, I was like, why are there side stories in this? Oh wait, it's 100th issue. Like, it just kind of felt like a regular end of the arc issue, a regular Batman versus Joker, not a grand finale like it was advertised.
Yeah.
So I agree. Why is that?
I don't know. Maybe it's, Harper said a few weeks ago that, part of why he couldn't feel the hype for Joker War is because it didn't really feel earned. Like an event like that is supposed to take place like more towards the end of the run.
Mhm.
And since Tinion kind of like just started, it's kind of just like, oh, okay, I
Yeah,
don't know. For me, it's not. I've thought Tinion's Batman is fine. I think it's very serviceable. It's not that Joker War is bad. It's just that it's so. Maybe it's the way that it was pushed and advertised. Maybe it's the way that it's been talked about. But I just feel like it's not much. I mean, what would you compare it to from past events? Would you say it's on the level of Batman Endgame?
no,
Is it below Batman Endgame?
yeah, that was easy.
You
I
know,
mean, Batman
like
Endgame did that. That's a good comparison actually, because Batman Endgame, although it was in the last arc for Scott Snyder, it felt like the finale. It felt like the final Batman versus Joker confrontation, and it ended with them fighting and them both passing out. While this story, that's one thing that bothers me. Nothing changes. It ends. Joker escapes. That's how it
yeah.
ends. And it's just like, okay, we've
And
seen this
and
before.
and I think maybe it's because Three Jokers is happening, on the background, that like anything that happens with Joker, I'm kind of just like, okay, but how does Three Jokers impact this? But
Exactly.
I don't know. There's something about the story that just doesn't do it for me, and I kind of wish it did, because I, the idea of Joker War, I could see it working. I don't know, when you put it into like the grand scheme of Bat stuff. And this is something that we were talking about in the group chat not too long ago, where, the problem with Batman is that everyone wants to use the same characters. Everyone wants to use the Joker. And it's just like, you end up overdoing it.
It feels like Joker's the only rogue in Batman's gallery at this point.
And Joker War is the perfect example of, overdoing it with the Joker, because we've seen all these things before, It's just,
Joker takes over the city and hires people to burn buildings down. The only unique take was he was putting bodies in movie theaters, and even that's kind of like, all right,
yeah,
that's
like,
cool,
I don't know.
but it's a side thing for a major story here.
It just like it feels like such a disappointing story. And like I said, there's things that happen in it that I like. Now we'll see how it ends up paying off in the future here, because Babs' Oracle, sign me up. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's cool.
Uh,
Nightwing returning, that's awesome.
Nightwing returning, sign me up. Amazing.
Mhm.
Cass and Steph taking on the bigger bat role, amazing. I'm curious if Babs will be staying as Oracle. Will we see a actual pass the baton? This is something I was talking to Comic View Tom about. About like, if she's not really like passing it on to Cass or passing it on to Steph, like, did it actually happen? So
Yeah,
I don't know. This like, I mean, if you're listening right now, you can probably tell by my lack of enthusiasm and the way I'm speaking about it. I just, eh.
it was very due to the ending and just the story. It had cool ideas. It did. I feel like we're all kind of tired of the Joker, though.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm tired of the Joker.
He
It's too
was a side
much.
character in City of Bane. Everyone say a Bane ended, he was teased for all this punchline build-up. And we have Joker War, and while at the same time we have three Jokers, and starting in 2 months we have Batman, Catwoman, and Joker's going to be one of the villains to that.
Yeah, like, why is Joker involved with that? Like, there's really no
Yeah,
reason.
I love the New 52 era for Joker because it's 6 years of comics, and he only appears twice. That's amazing because the 2 times he does appear, it's intense. Death of the family. He almost kills literally everybody and he like tortures people in unique ways, having them dance, and if they ever stop, they get like stabbed, kind of thing. So their feet are bleeding. So it's a very unique story for Joker. On the whole, they also have the whole cut off the face and staple it back on, so give it a unique look. Crazy Joker. Then you got Endgame, which is the return of Joker, I think 3 years later, after Death of the Family, and that's like the final battle, and it ends with theories of Joker is either like he's been alive for ages and ages and ages, tying on that whole like we don't know his true origin, or we also have the whole he's sane now as he appears in the next arc, or a man similar to him who appears in the next arc as a sane man, and he might have died because it also ends with him getting stabbed and falling unconscious. So it has so many different possible takes to the ending. While this story, the ending is Joker escaped. The end.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it feels like they're setting up future Joker stuff too, and it's just like, eh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think James Tinian's a very good writer, but I don't know. I just think
Well,
Joker War is, it's okay.
it is very much just an okay story. This issue in general, I thought was pretty weak, but I thought the story arc in general is just, it's good. It's great for new readers. If you're a new reader and want to get into Batman, this is definitely like a super easy story to get into. You don't have to know much going into it. It kind of like tells itself, which is good, and it's well written too. It's just kind of like a typical story. If you've been reading Batman for years and years and years and want some new stuff, I wouldn't really recommend the story because it doesn't bring too many new things to the table. Art is fantastic. It's got some cool moments, but as a story, a little weak. Yeah. Anything else you want to say about it? Or?
No, that's about all of what I got, because it's ultimately just, it's okay.
What do you rate the issue?
Okay out of 10. I don't know. It's like Joker War in general is like a 6 out of 10 to me. It's very mediocre.
I would say a 6 would be an okay. So yeah, I give it as well a 6 out of 10. This issue.
Yeah,
It's
right.
A better issue came out this week was The Amazing Spider-Man number 49, also known as number 850. For those confused about this, Marvel and DC every once in a while do a relaunch of titles where they just start at issue 1. They did this in 2018, I believe, for most of their major characters. So everything's starting number 1, so new readers can jump on and be easy to understand. They'll explain some things a little easier, and then they'll get into the deep stories. But they also keep up with legacy numbers. So since the very first Amazing Spider-Man, they're still counting from 1 to 100, 200, 300, so on. So this is the 850th issue since the very first The Amazing Spider-Man comic.
Which is pretty crazy, by the way. Like, we just, like, in perspective, I mean, one of the more famous comics is Amazing Spider-Man 300, which came out, I think, in like the 90s. Like, now we're at 850. That's insane.
Did it actually come out in the 90s? Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think Amazing Spider-Man 300. That's like the Venom stuff. That's like, it's a very valuable issue.
It started Venom, the Venom mark. Yeah, that's where the black suit appears. Yeah.
It's a 9.8 copy just went for $5,800 for Amazing Spider-Man 300. So maybe save your anniversary issues.
I don't know if it's the first appearance of Venom, but it's the first appearance of the black suit, and this was before when it was just a suit. It wasn't alive. So yeah, your suits alone could go for a while. Yeah, it's got that great cover. It's very simplistic.
Yeah.
It's just Spider-Man in the black suit. That's it.
But with the 300s all around it.
Mm-hmm. Damn, I didn't realize that much. And yeah, I guess you're right. Well, back then comics came out when they were ready, and then they changed to coming out monthly, and then occasionally they go bi-weekly, or sometimes even weekly. I feel like now they kind of follow the same formula as they used to for Marvel, at least, where they come out when they're ready. Because this run on Spider-Man is at 49 issues and started at the same time as the Captain America comic run, which is at like 16 issues. This is at 49. So they come out when they're ready.
It's sort of the same thing with Daredevil, where it'll be like some months are monthly, some months are bi-weekly.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And Daredevil is in their 20s right now. I think 23. That's what they're at, 20 something. But yeah, so it's cool. I'm okay with it. This issue itself, oh my god, this was good. Nothing really like extreme. Well, I guess a few extreme things happened, but this was just super well written. Nick Spencer on Spider-Man. Like you're so good. Please stay on the book for a long time. And Patrick Gleason joins the art next issue. But right now it's Ryan Otley and Ramos. I'm trying to find the last name of this guy.
Umberto Ramos.
Yeah. So they're both on art here. Oh, sorry.
Umberto Ramos is known for his work on Ultimate.
Okay, yeah. Well, he's on here. Oh yeah, I do recognize this very much. So they both kind of go back and forth with this book. Like Ryan Otley does the beginning, and then they switch, just because it is a double-sized issue. The whole story is just literally Spider-Man and Green Goblin teaming up against Sin Eater, and you get some really cool splash pages with this issue alone of just them teaming up and like working together. The whole time they're arguing, which I thought was kind of funny. Like Spider-Man will shoot a web, and Norman will like yell at him, being like, "You weren't supposed to shoot that yet." And so Norman will throw like a pumpkin bomb, and Spider-Man will be like, "You almost hit me," and Norman's like, "Oh, the horror if I did," kind of thing. So they're fighting the whole time. The Sin Eater himself turns into basically the Juggernaut, which I thought was a little weird. At least I think that's he turns into basically the Juggernaut. But the whole main cool things of the story was the Order of the Web, which I kind of went over last Spider-Man issue, coming together to join Peter and Green Goblin in their fight against the Sin Eater. So the Order of the Web is a new team of Gwen Stacy, Spider-Gwen, so Ghost Spider, Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Spider-Girl, Spider-Woman, Silk, and Madame Web. So they all kind of join together as Spider people and become their first big Spider-Man team that isn't just the Spider-Verse when the multiverse is in trouble. They team up. You have scenes where Spider-Man saves Green Goblin, Green Goblin saves Spider-Man. But the cool part of this is when they beat Sin Eater. They beat him the same way Spider-Man beat him last time, by like melting the room around, making so then he kind of, or this isn't the last time Spider-Man beat Sin Eater, sorry, it was when he beat Juggernaut, by melting the room around and making the concrete harden again so Sin Eater can get stuck in the concrete. So they do that, they get in a ship, and they kind of get ready to fly off. But when they're getting ready to fly off, when the whole place is filled with like liquid concrete, Norman starts to really push Peter's buttons as all the Spider people and Green Goblin are in the ship together. He starts saying things like how he doesn't recognize all these Spider people, but then someone mentions Gwen's name by Gwen, and he kind of gets surprised by that. He goes, Gwen, it is you, oh my. For the rumors, of course, but even still, to actually see you and be near you. Well, forgive me, it's just a bit intoxicating. And he like leans in and starts to whisper to Gwen, and as we all know, he had a really creepy past with Gwen Stacy that we all try to forget. But he also killed this world's Gwen Stacy, you know? The Amazing Spider-Man 2, for the people that don't know the comics, he threw Gwen Stacy off a roof and her back snapped. So seeing Gwen Stacy from an alternate reality really makes him start to threat her in more of a typical like mustache twirling villain, but in a good way here, as he's saying some really good dialogue, and that really forces Peter to kind of yell at him, being like, look, we teamed up for this, but that's it. After this, you're done. And then Norman starts to push him again more and more and more, just being like, oh, well, when this is done, are we back to enemies? Should I just go kill Gwen right now? And it leads to Spider-Man having flashbacks to Gwen's death, to other friends' deaths. It was all these deaths of innocent people that died because of Norman Osborn. And he ends it by opening up the ship, and Peter throws Norman out into the wet concrete, and they fly away, leaving Norman to maybe drown. It doesn't really show. You kind of show him struggling to get out, but we don't actually see him get out in the end. So Peter almost killed Norman here. That's like the big takeaway from this. Like, he was tired of Green Goblin, and he tried to kill him. Didn't kill him, didn't succeed, because it looks like Norman did live. But yeah, as far as Centipede guy, which I forget his name is, we still don't know. Is it
Kindred?
Yeah, Kindred. We still know nothing about him. He was watching this whole thing unfold, but his arc is going to be a focus of the next one. And the Order of the Web will be staying with it all in the next one. The next issue is all going to be done by Patrick Gleason. He's doing the next arc, and the cover is Spider-Man hiding from the other Spider people. It looks really cool, but we don't really know much about the story. All in all, it was really good for the run this issue. If you're new to Spider-Man comics, I wouldn't recommend picking up A50. I would recommend reading from maybe issue 40 up, because this was about like a close to a 10-issue arc. So you fully understand, because this was basically just a continuation from where we last left off and the finale of the Sin Eater arc with Green Goblin teaming up. It was great, but yeah, don't recommend for new readers, unlike the Batman comic. So yeah, all in all, I give it like a 8.59 maybe. It was good. I enjoyed it a lot. I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah,
That's good.
we
Yeah,
are.
that's
Sorry, go on.
that's that's pretty much the comics of the week.
Mhm.
Now I don't know what time we're at. We're a little short
50.
on time, aren't we?
50 minutes.
50. Okay. We got about 10 minutes to, kind of go over some stuff. We already had our trade talk. What do you think about doing some comic history?
Yeah, so this was a pitch I came up with JD last week because we thought we would have a super short episode last week, but it ended up going way longer than we thought. So I thought, new segment to a hero story, history lessons, where we give you the history of certain characters from Marvel and DC. Not like, oh, his parents were shot and so he trained all his life kind of thing. We're giving the actual histories of the real people, how these people came up with Batman, Captain America, Spider-Man, Superman, all these characters that we all know and love, how they come to be. We didn't really plan this. Who we want to do here?
I think the best one to start with is the first Avenger himself, Captain America.
Okay. The history of Captain
Uh,
America, told
so
unscripted by JD and me.
Oh boy,
We
here
both
we
know
go.
it though.
And I did promise that I knew his history. Okay, so Captain America came around in the 40s, 1941. His first appearance is in his own title, Captain America Comics #1. He was made as essentially war propaganda.
Truly.
In the golden age of comics, propaganda was a big thing in comics. Comics were meant to sell war bonds. You may recognize famous, Superman covers. One that comes to mind for me is if you want to slap a Jap, and it's Superman slapping a Japanese guy, and it's buy war bonds.
Jesus.
And yeah, it's I mean, we were at war with the United States was at war with Japan, so that was if Superman says go to war with Japan, well, I guess the kids are gonna like it too.
Yeah.
So Captain America was used in the same sense, and all his stories were told about World War II. It was told about either him on the home front catching spies or him on the war front.
Punching
So
Hitler.
yeah, there's the iconic shot of him punching Hitler,
Which was
he,
huge risk for the comic to do, showing him punching the enemy and then giving it to soldiers to read while they're deployed in Germany, basically.
Yeah, well. So he was created by Joe Simon and Jack Kirby, both who are of Jewish descent, and they both said that having Captain America punch Hitler was like all they could have
Motivating.
wanted.
Because then a soldier could read that and be like, I want to do that. I want to be like Captain America,
And it as Hunter mentioned, it was it was a risk for them. Joe Simon talked about often that after the first issue came out in the 40s, they got a lot of letters threatening them, hate mail about that's not what Captain America stands for, and they actually had to go under it's not really known very much, but there were people that would go outside of their offices and they were like protesting out that there shouldn't be a superhero like this, and the New York City mayor had to have police protect them, and Mayor LaGuardia himself gave his support to Simon and Kirby, which I don't think a lot of people know.
I didn't know that either. Yeah, and I was actually trained to know this history when I worked at Marvel last year. So interesting.
Yeah, they all had there was a lot of threats on them, but yeah, Captain America lived on, and he ended up appearing in a lot of comics throughout the 40s. Although unfortunately, he went through what every comic book went through at the end of the 40s/early 50s, the comic book drought, where the golden age comics kind of died off
Well,
after
this
the
is
war was
also due
over.
to the war ending. World War II is over. What's the
The
point
war,
of
the
Captain
war, the
America?
war ends in 40. Yeah, the war ends in 45, and not as many people are reading comics. And the comic book industry goes away from superhero comics for a while,
Mhm.
and Captain America goes on ice.
Yeah,
So
that's how they wrote him. Like he sacrificed himself to save the day, kind of thing. Also, because
yeah,
they're like, okay, war's over. Why would I read Captain America? Because there's no point. He's not inspiring anymore. Because we're all safe, freedom, kind of thing.
yeah, and he wasn't actually brought back until 1963. So this is
About 10 years later.
or 1964 actually. So this is the Silver Age has already started at this point. He's they kind of test him out a little bit because if I'm not mistaken, and I could be wrong here, doesn't he get tested in what is it? Is it Strange Tales?
He gets tested in.
It's a Human Torch book. It's a
I
Human
think
Torch
it might have been
story
Tales of Suspense or Strange Tales. One of those two. He gets tested, but it wasn't
where
successful.
yeah, so they have like a Human Torch story about Captain America to see like, all right, could we bring Captain America back?
But this
Now,
story took place during the war again, so they went back to when
yeah,
during World War II. He just happened to meet Human Torch, kind of thing.
yeah, and during to look at the time period, now we're in the 1963. Something big happens in America in 1963. President John F. Kennedy gets assassinated, and Stan Lee sees that the nation is mourning. I mean, it was they lost their president. It was very tough,
Mhm.
and he thinks that America needs a hero. America needs someone to look up to. Could that be Captain America? And it all leads to Captain America being on the cover of Avengers #4 with the big title Captain America Lives Again as he leads the Avengers. And
Mhm.
from there on out,
Which
he's
was
back. He returns to his solo book, and he returns to the Avengers, and he makes like all these this big comeback in comics, and he's
which was
Captain America
genius
again.
to put him back there because this is Avengers #4. Avengers #1 is still fairly fresh, but at the time, this was the first time Marvel characters are truly like reuniting. They're truly getting together. You could have a fan that loves Ant-Man and a fan that loves Iron Man, and suddenly they're side by side. So it was already a huge success for 3 issues. And just to boost even more, put Captain America on the cover, who not only was just a comic book hero, but in a way, he was a hero in real life because he inspired so many people to help stop the war. So you have this real life hero returning straight on the cover of Marvel's most successful comic. So
Yeah.
genius.
Uh, some other fun facts about Captain America. Um, when they were coming up with the name for Captain America, the original name that they had at the bottom of the page was Super American, but they felt that it didn't work because there was too many supers around. So they
Yeah,
decided to change the name to Captain America, and they felt that it stuck much better.
makes more sense because he is a captain.
Yeah.
They decided
Um,
not to bring Bucky back because they thought he was a little childish as he was. That Bucky was made for in the original Captain America's to more so inspire kids. So when kids grow up, they would want to be more like Captain America. But at the moment, they could relate more to Bucky Barnes, so Captain America's sidekick at the time. They didn't bring him back for years and years and years until they brought him back as the Winter Soldier, kind of thing. So.
yeah. Um, other weird facts about Captain America. In 1966, the co-creator Joe Simon sued Marvel Comics, saying that he has the rights to Captain America, not Marvel Comics. That the copyright should belong to him, and they were able to settle out of court with Joe Simon basically agreeing that the character was created under the terms of the employment of the original publisher, so he didn't technically own Captain America. But he also sued in 1999 to claim the copyright of Captain America again.
I didn't know that.
It was about the copyright being so old at that point that he was able to get it, or what he thought he would be able to get it. But Marvel basically countersued, and they're like, no, that's not how this is going to work. And but basically he they ended up settling where he would get royalties for merchandising and licensing of the character. So every time Captain America appears in a comics, Joe Simon gets a little bit of money. And if he appears in a movie or a TV show, Joe Simon gets a little bit of money. So
Kind of makes sense. In the end, he kind of wrote Captain America like it was his idea and Jack Kirby's, but Jack Kirby was the artist involved. He was the writer. So
Yeah.
honestly, makes sense for that last part, him getting a little bit of money for everything used for Cap, because it'd be annoying. And you create a character, it's so popular, and then years later someone else brings back that character. At the time, these are not when like there's characters created every day, and so it makes sense that he would be a little annoyed by that. So
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, Captain America has a very interesting story of his creation. There's there's more stories beyond what happened of I'm sure that like have never actually gotten reported of stuff in the 40s. There's always been rumors that like the government had to get rid of certain issues of Captain America because it had to do with like their war plan. Same thing with like old Superman issues. So
Yeah.
I'd be quite curious of like more of that, but. There was also rumors that Joe Simon didn't think that Jack Kirby could handle doing Captain America alone.
Yeah.
that he would need like a whole team of artists, which is interesting because nowadays there is like a whole team of artists. But yeah, so there's a lot of interesting things
I
to.
mean, yeah, I was kind of like a tour guide for the Marvel exhibit, like an unofficial tour guide for the Marvel exhibit when it was in Canada. I worked for the marketing for them, but since I knew so much knowledge, they allowed me to do a few tours. So I had to kind of learn a few things that I didn't know just off the bat. For Captain America, a few fun facts about him that I know. He has interacted with every single United States president since his first appearance, except for the current one. So, fun fact there. Um, Falcon, when they brought in Falcon as his second sidekick since Bucky wasn't around, although Falcon wasn't the first African superhero, he was the first African American superhero at the time. So, those are two little fun facts that I could give you real quick as we quickly try to get to it. Hey, we made it to an hour.
Yeah, no, I actually didn't know that about the presidency, and I didn't know that about Falcon. So
I
it's
mean, he
two
could still
interesting
maybe
facts.
interact with the current president. It's just at the moment he hasn't yet, as far as I know. But he has interacted with every single other one besides
Given
the first.
given the current writer Ta-Nehisi Coates' feeling on the current president, I don't think they'll be interacting.
If they would,
Would
it'd be more of a negative impact instead of a
yeah. I
classic
don't think that.
panel where they shake hands.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. But yeah, no, it's interesting.
Fun facts.
And yeah, that's the history of Captain America. So hey, hopefully you learned something. If this is a section of the podcast that you think is pretty cool and you want to see more of, let us know. There's other characters that I think would be cool to go over their history and give some fun facts on. So
Just
yeah,
as
let us know.
just as
Either
comic fans
DM.
alone, we know a lot about the history of these characters. Like off the top of my head, I could probably name word for word the entire history of Spider-Man. So if you guys want to,
Oh
I know that
man,
one's probably kind of typical. I feel like a lot of people know that one, but if you want to hear us talk about, you can, or other characters that know the entire history of Black Panther. I know it all for more modern characters, Jessica Cruz, Miles Morales, stuff like that, as well as other classics, Batman, Superman. We'll go to DC as well. But yeah, like JD
yeah.
said, let us know.
Yeah, the DM us on our accounts or DM us on a hero story. I'd be interested to hear if you guys like this kind of thing on the podcast. And yeah,
Yeah,
that pretty much brings us to the end of the podcast. So hey, thanks for listening. If you're listening on iTunes, we appreciate a 5-star review. If you're listening anywhere else, we appreciate a follow slash subscribe. We're going very strong with our Indiegogo for the
I was
price a
about to
hero
mention
pays.
that.
I'm very proud of the very proud of the growth we've had there. It's been a ton of fun to see the success come in, and like I said, I couldn't be more happy. It still blows my mind that hey, people want to see our stuff. So yeah, we're up to
Thank you so much.
74% of our goal, which is pretty damn good. We're
Very,
pretty much
very good.
pretty damn good. We're about 3/4 of the way there. So hey, keep it going strong, and yeah. Anyway, for a hero story, I'm JD.
I'm Hunter, and thanks for being a hero.
And remember, every second is a gift. Goodbye.
What?